Shalom Aleichem Rabotai. These are the Mishnayot for Mishnah Yomi for Shabbat Lech Lecha. We are in Bikkurim in the second Perek, the fourth Mishnah. V'yesh b'Bikkurim masha'ein ken b'Truma maaser. There are certain things about Bikkurim that are unique to Bikkurim that are not found in Truma and Maaser. Bikkurim niknin b'mchuma v'lekarka. Bikkurim become Bikkurim when they are designated, when they're still growing and attached to the ground. What they would do was come down and see what's the first budding, the first flowering, the first fruiting plant and tie a ribbon around and say, oh, hareze Bikkurim. This is going to be the Bikkurim. So when it's still attached to the ground and not even fully grown, it can have a status of Bikkurim. Mashke and the others, they need to be processed before the tithes are taken. A man can make his entire field or orchard into Bikkurim, which you can't do with maaser. Maaser has to be separated from something else, leaving over the rest of it. The hayav b'achriyutam, and he's responsible for achrayus for replacing it. If his first fruits, and they're literally the first ones, get lost, then you'll bring the second ones. You'll bring the next biggest, the next best ones. To unin korban. When they brought the Bikkurim, they brought a shlomim also. He's coming into the temple itself, not just giving it to a Kohen. So coming into the temple, you bring a shlomim. Vishir, and it needs a song. The Leviim would sing a song during the procession and the bringing of the Bikkurim. Utznufa, and waving. We're going to see they wave the basket for Bikkurim. Velina, and spending the night. Meaning if you bring a carbon in your shalayim, you come to the temple and you bring something to the temple, you spend the night. You don't just run home. You stay in Yerushalayim and you sort of absorb the kedusha of Yerushalayim and the benefit that you've gained from coming to the temple. It's amazing that it's Shabbos Lech Lecha, where Avraham is given, according to many Mefarshim, given the land, or Avraham is kona the land by going Yama Ked Matzon of Enegba, is kona it on our behalf, on behalf of his future descendants. And here it is, you're talking about the Bikkurim, which is one of the greatest manifestations of the thankfulness that we have to Hashem for giving us the land of Eretz Yisrael as our inheritance. Mishnah Hey, Terumat maaser Shavat Bikkurim b'shtei drachim. Terumat maaser. Now that's the 10% that the Levi would separate from his maaser rishon, and it is similar to Bikkurim in two ways. L'truma b'shtei drachim, and it's also similar to truma, the tithe itself, truma gedola, b'shtei drachim in two ways. Nitelet min tahor ala tameh. You may separate truma maaser from something that's tahor, that's pure, onto something that's tameh, because it has to be pure to be truma, but your other part of the maaser rishon that the Levi will consume doesn't have to be tahor. Shalom and a mukaf, and from something that's not next door to it. Remember, we said by truma and also by challah. Challah was a form of truma. Recall that we separate min mukaf from something next door, not from something in one city or one granary to another granary. Bikkurim, and these are similar to Bikkurim. So there's no need to designate Bikkurim that are tahor and tameh. We don't designate Bikkurim to exempt other Bikkurim. And lo min mukaf, by Bikkurim, you can have one tree that's your Bikkurim, and it exempts the other trees in the whole orchard that aren't even next to it. The Mishnah continues that the Gurin v'yesh lashir ketruma, and trumas maaser is like truma, that once your grains are processed, you can't eat anything until you've separated the tithes, including trumas maaser. So again, as a chazara, 2% truma gedola, 10% trumas maaser to the Levi, and then that Levi takes off 10% of trumas maaser from his truma, from his maaser rishon, and he gives that truma maaser to a Kohen. Yesh lashir, and it has a measure. It's 1/10 of the maaser rishon, like the truma. Shkoyach Rabosai, Shabbat Shalom Mevorach.